Good morning. It is barely still morning. Let me tell you what, I had a rough morning. I don't know if y'all saw the all ages wake up story earlier, but I was on the struggle bus. Like, I kept mispronouncing words, and like there were moments that I was just like staring at the page like, what is even happening? But I am on my second cup of coffee now. And oh wait, this side. Harley Quinn. I'm on my second cup of coffee now, so I'm a little bit more myself. Which is like, that is why I started doing these wake up stories, because I do have such an issue getting up in the morning. Like, yeah, it's the worst. So, let's get started with, okay, we did 11 and 12 last time. 12, okay. You know what I should do? I should get a bookmark. That would make things a lot easier, wouldn't it? Yeah, well, all right, so our teenagers, our group of teens, is in the process of escaping. So, also, just in case you didn't see the caption, trigger warning, trying to do it both in the caption and say it in the video before I get started. There is a lot of trauma that happens to these this group of teenagers. So if you know that you have some issues with certain content, like, go ahead and fortify and or you stop watching if you need to, but just be prepared that that's something that comes up. Chapter 13. Wait. No, we read 13. Never mind. 14. I'm gonna get a bookmark. Oh my god. Okay. Yes. Jaleel fell in the giant cave with the snake. Got it. Okay. Chapter 14. I'll update the caption. Maybe I'm still on the struggle bus. Let me get one more sip of coffee before I get started. Jesus. Here we go. I gripped Jaleel's hand, but his fingers escaped. His face hit hard on the edge of the floor. His hands scrabbled on stone. April screamed. Jaleel was slipping. I dropped to my belly. Jaleel's left hand waved, helpless, unable to grab anything but air. I clamped both my hands on his right arm, but it was a weak grip. His fingers clawed at stone. Sweat slicked his forearm, and now I was slipping. I snatched his sleeve to improve my grip, but I was being dragged toward the edge. He looked at me. Eyes huge, mouth open, like he was screaming, but no sound came out. Slipping. I had to let go, or April landed on my back. Too hard, almost knocking the wind out of me, but stopping my slide. I caught a flash of Christopher down in his belly too. He extended out over the edge, trying to grab Jaleel's flailing hand. My fingers slipped. Damp, smooth flesh. I couldn't hold on. I dug my fingernails, ready to tear Jaleel's skin to save him. Slip. Ah! I caught him again at the wrist. Now his other hand was too far for Christopher to reach. but I could hold on to the wrist better. Both hands tight around Jalil's wrist till they cramped. Then behind Jalil's head, I saw it. The snake's head rose up, slit eyes, amused and eager. A bluish tongue forked, thick as a bridge cable, 30, 40 feet long, whipped back, whipped out, and quivered, tasting the air. I flashed on Loki's tapestry. The uniforms of his men. Was this the snake who'd been used to drip venom on the god's face? Find them! Loki cried again. The sound hammered at my head, confusing my thoughts. I have them, Father. The voice came from the snake. No lips had moved. It had no lips. But the sound had come from the snake with the intelligent, mocking eyes. Father? Father? Christopher demanded shrilly. I thought my family was messed up. The snake's mouth opened like an automatic garage door. It opened, and then there were the fangs, glittering in the puffy pink flesh mouth. Jalil flailed. Christopher nearly toppled over the edge, reaching for his hand. In seconds, the snake would strike. April, backpack! I gasped. Give it to Christopher. I could feel her on me, squirming, getting it off her. Here! She yelled. Christopher wrapped one hand through a strap and swung the pack out, trying to lasso Jalil's other hand. Grab. A miss. A grab. Yes! Jalil's hand snagged the strap. Christopher clamped his own hands around Jalil's wrist, and we pulled. Jalil's feet scrabbled at the sheer wall below him and found some tiny edge to push against. Up he came. The snake's eyes darkened. Like a bullwhip, it struck. Jalil clambered up as the snake's head slammed against the tunnel opening, fangs out. Fangs so big I could have stuck my fist up inside the hypodermic hole. But the snake's head was too big for the tunnel. We wobbled to our feet and ran. Then we stopped very suddenly. Christopher yelled a curse. We were face to face with a tunnel crammed with trolls and men, all with swords drawn and axes held ready. Behind us, the enraged snake reared back and slammed itself against the tunnel opening again. Down! Jalil yelled. He shoved me face forward. I plowed into April. Christopher must have figured it out on his own because he hit the dirt like he'd been tackled from behind. The snake's forked tongue shot just inches above us. It darted forward down the tunnel, knocking down a handful of the trolls and men like bowling pins. The forked tongue curved and wrapped and snapped back over us with several 100 pounds of bellowing trolls and wild Norsemen. I was kicked, pummeled, and nearly slashed by a sword blade. I raised my head just enough to see them sucked, screaming into the pulpy pink mouth. The two men and single troll who were left backpedaled fast. I charged, sword held straight out in front of me. Taken by surprise, the two men slammed back against the tunnel wall. The troll stood blinking stupidly. I rammed the sword into his chest and kept on running. April was right behind me. Jalil, Christopher, suddenly the sound of a bag of cement hitting the ground. One of the men had tripped Christopher. The Norseman was drawing a long knife from his belt. He pulled Christopher's head back by the hair, exposing his throat. Jalil fumbled in his pocket. Damn it, I uttered in frustration. I had no weapon. Nothing. The remaining Norseman was grinning at April. He grabbed at her. She evaded him. Just then I saw the tiny Swiss army knife open in Jalil's hand. He slashed at the knife hand of the guy who had Christopher. The big man gaped at the small red wound on his hand. Christopher twisted around on his back, pulled both his legs up into the fetal position, and unloaded with every muscle in his body. His feet hit the big Viking in the very location that no man, not even a big Viking, wants to be kicked. "Ugh!" the Norseman said. He stumbled back and grabbed himself. His companion guffawed like an idiot and said, "No, I'll have to have the woman to myself." Ha ha ha. April swung. The heel of her hand came up and nailed the end of the man's nose. I grabbed his sword arm, slammed his elbow against the rock, and yanked his sword from his numbed hand. We didn't stay around to see any more. We hauled. "The air shaft," Jalil panted. "Only way." It was just 50 feet down the tunnel. 100 feet down the tunnel was a new rush of men. A race. I hit the air shaft first. About 3 seconds before the wave of Norsemen, I jumped to block them from reaching the opening. "Go! Go! Go!" I yelled to the others. I held the sword out, ready. A huge man, blonde hair greased into Heidi pigtails that hung down from his dingy helmet, stood facing me. He was holding a long-handled battle axe. He looked like I was the best thing he'd seen in years. He laughed. He grinned the happy grin of a mad warrior getting ready to do battle. He whirled a threat at me, like some World Wrestling Federation character putting on a ferocious act. Only this was no act. The others were all in the air shaft, crawling like infants. An undignified parade of butts. I could stay and fight. I'd lose. I barely knew which end of the sword to hold on to, or I could run for it. I backed up into the air shaft, keeping my sword out. The Viking looked disappointed, but he wasn't going to let me get away. He came after me. I was crab walking, scuffling, backward crawling, losing more skin off my knees, banging my head on the low ceiling. I swung the sword weakly back and forth. "I'll kill you," I yelled. The Viking laughed, with good reason. He was crawling forward. I was going backward. I was scared to death. He was at a party. He was having the time of his life. He was grinning like a guy who just scored the winning touchdown. But he'd overlooked one major fact. It's hard to do much with a 4-foot-long axe in a 4-foot square tunnel. He jabbed, but I could stay out of reach, and even knock his sword aside occasionally. I heard Christopher cursing behind me. "There's nothing here," he yelled. I kept backing up. It's like a 500-foot drop to the water. The choices were not good, but I knew one thing. There might be a 99% chance that a drop that far would kill us all. There was a 100% chance we'd all die if we stayed to talk things over with the Vikings. "Do it!" I yelled. "Oh man, I should have just let the snake eat me," Jalil said. I glanced over my shoulder. The square of light was closer than I expected. I could see it past Jalil's butt and April's hair. The Viking took advantage of the distraction. He lunged with the axe. The side of the blade bit into my chest just below my collarbone. "Just jump!" I bellowed in panic. "Jump! Jump! He's gonna kill me!" I backed, and suddenly there was nowhere else to back. The last thing I saw as I fell was the Viking's crestfallen face. 15. I dropped rear first from the air shaft. My foot caught and spun me, so I twisted face down. I could see the others below me. I could see the inky water below them. I could see the cut with a knife cliffs all around us. We were falling 400 feet, the height of a 40-story building. Like jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge, which people did when they didn't expect to survive. I was going to hit the water and die, except that I was still falling, and so was Christopher, who was closest to hitting. We were all still falling, but slowly. Way too slowly. I breathed it in short, desperate gulps. My heart was hammering, my deep brain was still convinced I would be crushed by the impact. But then I saw Christopher hit. He entered the water with barely a ripple, like an Olympic diver. Right behind him, April and Jaleel, both with no more impact than if they'd jumped off the side of a pool. I had time to straighten myself up, to pull my legs up, and then extend them again, pointed downward. And as I did this, I happened to see a pinpoint of light shining from between two dagger-like rocks atop a cliff. The light shone, then winked, came on again, and just as I hit the water, disappeared. My feet hit the water. I plunged down, but no more than 5 or 6 feet. For a few seconds, the water actually felt good. My wrists were scraped to the meat, my upper chest had been stabbed, and my nose was still a mess. More to the point, the water cleaned away the rank smell of my own cowardice. But then, cold. The water was about 1 degree away from being a big block of ice. I plowed back up to the surface. "Oh," Jaleel said, sucking the air not 2 feet from me. "Oh, that's cold." Christopher and April were not far away. "Swim for shore," I said. "Gee, you think?" Christopher chattered. "I was wondering if maybe we could get up a game of water polo." I kicked hard to push myself up for a better view. We were in some kind of narrow inlet. The black cliffs rose around us on all sides. We almost could have been in some huge well. I felt I could sense which way the open water lay, but I couldn't see it. The cliffs seemed to hang like curtains in every direction I looked. I saw a boat. Instinctively, I ducked, but that was stupid. Anyone in the boat would have seen us falling. Besides, the boat seemed to be drifting. "There's a boat," I said. The cold was really attacking my muscles now. "Leonardo," April muttered through shuddering teeth. "What?" "Leonardo DiCaprio, Titanic. Drowned in the icy North Atlantic. Cold. Like this." "I didn't see it. Come on, let's swim for the boat." "You didn't see Titanic?" Her incredulous voice followed me as I began swimming hard for the boat. It wasn't far. I grabbed the gunwale and rocked the boat down so I could look inside. No one. Some stuff tied up with the rope and a couple of oars. The boat belonged to someone, but it was my boat now. I hauled myself up like I was doing a push-up and then twisted and squirmed until I flopped, wet and frozen, in the bottom of the boat. I wanted to just lie there and rest, but I hauled my lead-heavy body up to my knees and helped manhandle Christopher up and over. The two of us easily yanked Jaleel and April up out of the water. Then we all just lay there, lifeless, crumpled, arms and legs splayed out, staying as if we'd fallen. We knew we should be running or at least rowing for our lives, but we'd been long since exhausted, and nothing adds to weariness like cold. I hauled my granite stiff body up and I leaned back against the tide bundle. It was soft. I closed my eyes. I never intended to fall asleep, not there, rocking in a 20-foot rowboat. But I was done for. I closed my eyes on the black cliffs towering above my head, and I opened them in world civilizations. Last period. Ah! I sat upright in my desk. My book went sliding off and hit the floor. And that's the end of chapter 15. So, was it a dream the whole time? Or is he just dreaming about his own world? All right, we'll continue on with the next 2 chapters. of Everworld, search for Senna on Sunday evening for bedtime stories. Just keep in mind, we have 3 times a week that we do stories. Bedtime stories Sunday evening, and then wake up stories on Tuesday and Thursday mornings. So I will see you on Sunday, and we'll find out what happens next. Have a good day.